Olá pessoal, sejam muito bem-vindos a mais uma entrevista exclusiva aqui do canal Investigação Ovni. E aqui comigo um grande entrevistador, um grande pesquisador, também entrevistador, editor e também radialista. E é uma pessoa que eu acompanho já há muitos anos. Desde que eu comecei a ufologia, eu acompanho os trabalhos dele, da revista que ele é editor e que participou também. É o jornalista Jorge Martín, que nasceu na cidade de Nova York em 1952. Os seus pais são porto-riquenhos e ele se mudou para Porto Rico aos 5 anos de idade. Cursou também Ciências Políticas na Universidade de Porto Rico, onde começou o seu trabalho de jornalismo investigativo especializado no enigma dos objetos voadores não identificados e sua suposta presença extraterrestre no nosso mundo. Isso lá em 1975. Desde então, ele investigou centenas de casos e incidentes relacionados a este importante assunto, tanto em Porto Rico quanto no exterior. Seus trabalhos foram publicados em Porto Rico, claro, Estados Unidos, Inglaterra, Alemanha, França, Espanha, Itália, Japão, China, Romênia, Rússia, Polônia, Brasil, Argentina, Equador, México, Guatemala, Costa Rica e muitos outros países, com certeza. Ele também já representou Porto Rico em várias conferências e congressos internacionais de ufologia nos Estados Unidos, na Europa e em países latino-americanos. Ele foi consultor na produção de programas e documentários sobre o fenômeno OVNI em Porto Rico para o Discovery Channel, e eu já assisti vários desses programas, o Learning Channel, programas como Explorer da National Geographic, Unsolved Mysteries da NBC, Strange Universe da Fox Network, e para especiais para o México, Equador, Venezuela, Japão, Alemanha, além de muitos outros programas para a TV porto-riquenha. Produziu também vários programas de rádio sobre o tema e é autor dos livros El Informe Lazar, El Fenômeno Ebas, Vieques, Shooting Range do terceiro grau, third grade, e atualmente está escrevendo 3 outros livros importantes sobre o fenômeno ufológico em Porto Rico. Martin, ele foi editor das revistas porto-riquenhas Enigma, Evidência OVNI, Milênio X e atualmente é editor da revista Enigmas del Millennium. Jorge, thank you very much to be here. We speak in English, I know, but well, you can understand me in Portuguese, and I can understand in Spanish, but my Spanish is very poor, very, very poor. Be welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much, Tiago. Muito obrigado for the invitation to be in your show, okay?
Very good, great Portuguese. Let's start with the first question. I think is the same first question for everyone that I interview. What made you become an ufologist?
Well, I have always been interested in this matter since I was a small child, okay? Everything that had to do with space, and space travel, the space programs of the United States, Russia, etc. I was fascinated by the whole thing. And together with other matters such as, ancient civilizations and things like that. But in the year 1969, when the Apollo 11 flight to the moon, in the mission, I was following the transmission they were doing live, okay, on television. And at a certain moment, I heard one of the astronauts saying something that, I don't know which astronaut was it that said this, but I heard them say, NASA, we are being followed in our course by a strange object, avoid a shiny metallic object. And then I said, hey, what's going on? There's something here, because what he's describing is more or less what people call here flying stations and something like that. And NASA had always said that those type of things do not exist. But there was one of the astronauts informing NASA that a strange, ovoid, metallic, bright object was following them in their course to the moon. And just at that moment, NASA cut off the transmission. Okay, you could see everything they were doing in the cabin, but you couldn't hear them. And it was obvious that they had transferred the frequency, the communication, to another frequency. So the audience, the people would not hear what they were talking about. And now we know, Tiago, as you know, that is a very common thing they do in these situations when they are doing off-planet flights, So I became alerted that something indeed was going on, that the U.S. government, NASA, knew that this was happening, and there was something going on in the travel to the moon of the American astronauts. And that made me become more interested in this issue. And I began reading more, getting more acquainted with everything that was happening in different places, countries such as Brazil, with such a rich material in this type of events there in your country, Argentina, the United States, Mexico, many places. And in 1975, I was working as a manager in a department store. That was something apart from the ufology I was following, and in the town of Manatí, in the center of Puerto Rico, in the north. And my employees, these girls who worked there, told me, Mr., because they knew I was interested in the UFO phenomena, told me, Mr., we have this friend of ours who had a very interesting experience, and something happened to her that she doesn't remember everything that happened. But it was very interesting if you talk to her. Are you interested? And I said, yes. And so one day, this girl came to the store together with her husband, and they talked to me, okay? And it was an abduction, almost abduction experience, okay? Because apparently she was not taken anywhere but outside her home, But they did some type of examination with a small box-like metallic object that was floating in the air, levitating some 3 feet from the ground, okay, 1 meter. And when she was in front of the object, it began doing some clicking sounds, click, 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 click. And obviously they were doing sense, but she doesn't know what it was. And she was totally controlled by these beings. Everything began, her husband was taking his final exams for engineering degree in the University of Mayagüez, that's in the west part of Puerto Rico, western region. And she had stayed there that morning. It was about 9, 10, 11, 10 in the morning, 9, 10 a.m. And she was with her small baby that was about 9 months old by those days, her daughter. And she began hearing this buzzing sound. And she was, putting some clothes in the line for the clothes to dry with the sun. And something made her look up to the sky, and she saw the subject there in front of her at a certain altitude. And it was a flying saucer, okay? A typical flying saucer, metallic looking, silverish, very bright, reflecting the sun. And it was just hovering there in the air. She saw it, but at first she didn't believe any of these type of things, know anything about it. She thought maybe that was some type of airplane or something. And she left it there, okay? Then she went inside to prepare a small porridge for her daughter, okay, to give her something to eat. And when she was in the kitchen, she heard this buzzing sound, a strong buzz sound, like an electrical transformer, she said, okay, outside. And she became strange. What is this? Where is this sound coming from? But she noticed that whenever the sound got louder, she almost fainted, okay? She became very weak, and that the baby was complaining also of the sound, okay? Crying and doing something to her ears. So she wanted to see what is what. When she went to the front door, there was a window there, and she looked outside. There was a being standing there, okay? And the being was about 6 to 7 feet tall, with a human-like body. Okay, it was humanoid in shape, head, torso, arms, legs, etc. It was dressed in a tight-fitting silvery suit with a line that went from the neck to the middle of the torso. Okay, black line. And the difference thing was that his head was different. Okay, the skin of this creature was reddish in tone, with big black eyes. She couldn't see any nose or mouth, whatever. And this being had something like a helmet, a big helmet on its head that was round, big, and ended in like a pointy section in the forehead. Okay. When she looked at this creature, the creature nodded, moved its head, and she could hear in her mind that she was being told, stay there, be calm, nothing's going to happen, stop. But she became hysterical, and she went inside to protect her child, her little girl. But then the voice kept coming, in her mind. She said, come out, you must come out, you have to obey, nothing's going to happen, be calm. The thing is that she became totally hysterical, protecting her children. She thought something might happen to the baby. Because by those days in Puerto Rico, there was a very heavy UFO wave, okay? There were many UFOs seen everywhere in the island, encounter with beings, etc. And there were stories running around that those beings were coming from the women and for the children. They were taking them away. So she was afraid that her baby might be taken, or herself and her husband wouldn't know what happened to them, So she resisted these orders, but she said that it was harder and harder to resist those orders, okay, in her mind. Next thing she knows is that she goes to the door again. She sees the being there that said in a very strong way, come out, you must obey. And she doesn't remember anything else, okay? Next thing she remembers is that her husband arrived at noon to her home in Barrio Limón sector of Mayagüez in the mountains. And she was in a frantic state, okay? She was totally hysteric, running around, holding the baby, hitting herself with everything in the house, the furniture, the kitchen table, whatever. And she told her husband, there was a man. He tried to get in, etc. But she didn't remember anything else. So, as you remember the UFO, the being, a bright beam of yellow light that came down from the sky and covered the creature completely, as if there was something over her house, Her husband was very interested in knowing whatever happened on that occasion. That was in December 1973. The thing is that nothing else, of course, she didn't remember anything else, but then when she came to the store I was manager at, I talked to them and said, well, you are saying some things that seem to imply that maybe you had a further encounter experience, okay, and you don't remember. Would you be willing to submit yourself to a hypnosis session, hypnotic regression? And they said, yes, we'll do it, okay? So I got in contact with the Ovni group. Surely you know about the work of engineer Sebastián Robiu. Okay, Sebastián Robiu, William Santana Font, hymnologist Manuel Merndes del Toro, and others. And we got together, I talked about the case, and they were willing to investigate it. And we went to their home in the town of Manatí, in Atenas urban development. And there we did 3 different hypnosis sessions with this young girl, just this woman. And what came out was surprising. That was the first case in Puerto Rico in which hypnosis was used as a research instrument, And what came out was that she had been really contacted. When she went to the door, at that moment, the being told her to come out. She wouldn't do it. And he resorted to a very tricky thing, okay? They know how to do these things, okay? As she wouldn't come by herself when they ordered, she had this big, what we call a chino rock. These river rocks that are round, very polished, okay?
Yeah.
She used this rock to smash and make sofrito to give flavor to the food, with different ingredients.
Yeah, I know.
Mash it up, And what he did was that he told her, "Hey, that rock is very beautiful. Can I see that rock? Can you let me see that rock? It's very beautiful. Let me see it." And with that type of orders, in a light manner, way of talking, she took the rock and went to him. And when she went, she opened the door, he was there. And when in hypnosis, she realized that she had gone out. She became hysterical, okay? Crying and screaming, he's there, I opened the door, by God, what am I doing? I opened the door. But nothing more happened in that sense. The being controlled her completely, okay? She felt very calm and then took her to the backside of their home, and the patio, the terrain led to a deep ravine there, from which we did a throughout investigation in the whole area, and many of the people who lived nearby, not close to her, everyone lived a little far from each other, but they said that nights prior to this happening, the witnesses, the residents there, the neighbors, could see flying saucer type craft coming out from that ravine. Okay, the thing is that he took this woman to the back of her house and make her stand there, and there was this thing, okay, like a shoebox, but made of metal, very bright, shiny, and she was there for about 5-10 minutes, and this box was doing clicking sounds, Then they ordered her to go back. That's what she remembers. Go back and get inside the home and close the door. After that, the buzzing ended, the being disappeared, and everything stopped. But that's the moment when she recovers her own senses and she becomes really hysterical, okay? Totally nervous. She couldn't deal with it and went to change the baby because she feared that they had done something to the baby when she was outside, She doesn't know what happened. And the thing is that when her husband arrived at about 12 o'clock at noon, she was in the state I told you about first. She was totally hysterical, frantic, running all around the house, hitting herself with everything inside the house, furniture and everything. And how do you say, with her baby on her arms, and she wouldn't release her. And then she told her husband when he had to, make her react, okay, in a little violent manner, but it worked. And she began screaming, there was a man, he tried to get in, etc., etc., etc. But nothing else. She doesn't remember anything else. The thing is that at first he didn't know what to think about what she was telling him, but then he had to go back to the University of Mayagüez, el Colegio de Mayagüez, to excuse himself from the other exams that he had to make that day, and said there was an emergency in the family, etc. And even though she was very scared and very nervous, he she let him go. Okay, say, okay, do it. I'll be waiting for you. As soon as you get back, we'll leave. We'll go to Manatí, to my mother's house. And they agreed that, and he went to Mayagüez. But in the meantime, he told her, as I come by, call your mother in Manatí and talk to her. Count yourself, okay? In the meantime, I'll be back. And she did that. She was calling her mother, and they were talking by the telephone line. And all of a sudden, she began hearing again the buzzing sound, okay? The strong buzzing sound, but in the telephone line. And this voice appears and says, let it down, okay? Hang it up. And when she heard that, she became hysterical and crying. Her mother noticed what was going on and said, what's going on? What's happening? Is there something wrong there? And she said, nothing, mommy, because she didn't want her mother to become nervous or frightened. And said, everything is okay, but I have to leave. I have to go. Junior is here. And she hung up, okay? And when he came back, she was already frantic again, hysterical. And at that moment, they took everything they had at the moment and left to the town of Manatí, okay? Okay, all of that came out with many more details, okay, in the hypnosis regressions. There were 3 different hypnosis regressions. But it was, to us, it was really interesting, everything. And as I told you before, this was the first case in which hypnosis was used in a UFO case here in Puerto Rico.
That's amazing.
I more submerged in this matter.
Yeah, I can understand why. It's amazing. It's an amazing case. But there's another case that, for me, it's amazing as well. The video made in 2013 about Aguadilla Airport is considered one of the best records of a UFO. Tell us more about this case.
Okay, that's the case that UAP WAP analyzed the video, okay? That happened, as you said, in 2013. An airplane, a Falcon 25 from the U.S. Coast Guard and Homeland Security, since 9/11, they have joined, forces. And there's an office there in Aguadilla. That's in the northwestern tip of the island, okay? That's a place of many, many UFO events. That day, the airplane of the Coast Guard was doing some surveillance in the western area of Puerto Rico. And when they were going out from the Rafael Hernandez airport there in Aguadilla, they saw this thing, it looked like a pinkish reddish color, and it was flying around at a very high speed, And so as they had this FLIR camera with them that they use in their surveillances, they began taking video of the whole thing. And this object, it wasn't too big. It was about the size of a car, as much. But the movement it's made, and how it flies was very weird. They knew it was something that was not normal. And they began taking video and following it, okay, chasing it. The chase lasted for about 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And they had it all in video. But the strange thing is that this object, whatever it was, seemed to change its shape in several occasions while flying, okay? Like something out of the Transformer movies, something like that. Another thing is that at a speed of 125 miles or something like that, it went down to the sea and entered the sea and went undersea. You know that if one of our airships go into the sea at that speed, it would be like smashing in a concrete wall. It would destroy immediately. But nothing happened with this object. It just kept going on, moving underwater, and at a certain moment, it seemed to split into 2 different objects, okay? Then afterwards, they seemed to joined again, and the object came out from the water and continued flying around, okay, and then left the area. I had this source in the Coast Guard facility in Aguadilla, in Rafael Hernandez Airport, and that same day they called me. Hey, Jorge, we have this. It happened. He explained to me what it was, and I told him, well, I'm going to Mayagüez tomorrow morning, so if you can have me a copy of the video. And say, well, it is a little difficult, but I tried to get you a copy of the video, okay? And I went to Mayagüez, and coming back, I stopped there in Aguadilla, and to my surprise, he had a copy of the video. And he gave it to me. I took the video and made it public in the internet at once, okay? And later on, I learned that the Coast Guard and Homeland Security Agency in Aguadilla has sent the video to a place in the United States where they analyzed the type of things, and they said that yes, it was a bona fide UFO, okay, apparently a genuine UFO, okay, that the technology the object seemed to have was far superior from anything the United States had, okay, at that moment.
Yeah, well, it's amazing because I read the report, 117 pages, something like that, UMP report, and you can see, you can watch the video on internet. It's amazing because, as you said, in some part the object just diving in a ocean and splitting to it. If some airplane dive in the ocean, explode, you're gonna explode in millions of pieces.
Yes.
But this object just dive it, and then I think he was much faster under the sea than in the air, and then he split in two with the same size of the original one. The same size, not half part. No, the same size. Two objects the same size. Yes. So it's amazing, and but the government, as you said, told us was a UFO. I think it's much better film video than the Go Fast gimbal and the Nimitz UFO that we have recently.
So-called Tic Tacs and the others.
Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing video. Well, there's another.
I have my doubts about the Tic Tacs. Okay.
Tell me, what's the doubts?
Well, I think that we have had this type of Tic Tac encounters with U.S. jet fighters since the 80s here in Puerto Rico. Okay, there are several cases in which witnesses saw F-14 jet fighters from the U.S. Navy following or chasing this type of object, the so-called Tic Tacs. Okay, that name was given recently, but that type of objects have been seen here for many years, and sometimes I don't know if they are chasing them or they are escorting them. Okay, I think that maybe there are some type of new development of aeronautics. You know, a secret prototype from the government of the United States that the U.S. Navy use in something they are doing, because for all I know, Tiago, because of my research here and the things I have found pertaining to the U.S. Navy seems to be the agency that is most involved with the UFO matter for the government of the United States, okay? They seem to know more even than the Air Force, etc., okay? And for example, I don't know if you know this, but in the year 2001, I published a book, Vieques, Shooting Range of the Third Kind. It had to do with a secret U.S. Navy contact program with UFOs and aliens in the island municipality of Vieques. That's in the east of Puerto Rico, okay? I found there many, I never expected to find so much material, okay? And testimonies of witnesses, all type of witnesses, policemen, state policemen, municipal policemen, the fishermen all around the island, the citizens, the municipal government, people who work with the U.S. Navy there, security guards for the U.S. Navy, civilian guards who work for the Navy. And Thiago, I have no doubt that the U.S. Navy has some type of secret contact program there, okay? The people there in that island have seen for many, many years alien beings of the so-called gray type, small ones with the big heads, etc. But the thing is that these beings seem to be amphibian in nature. Okay, they come out from the water, go into the water, seem to live underwater as if nothing, as if it was natural to them, for them to do that. They are seen going into the lagoons in the area, coming out from the lagoon into the sea. Many craft, including a huge size flying saucer type craft, going in the sea, coming up from the sea, going into the lagoons, picking up water, okay, absorbing water from underneath. And in the base there, Camp Garcia, there were two bases there because the island was divided. There was a small fringe of land that went from north to south, in which the Vieques population was, because many people believe out there, for example, in Brazil and many places, that island was uninhabited, but it was inhabited. There was people living there, okay? And at both sides from that small fringe where the people was allowed to live, there was a base to the west where they had these bunkers with explosives, etc. Okay, and to the east, that area was called Campamento Garcia, Camp Garcia, and there was a big bombing and shooting range and a land for exercise, military exercise, etc. and experimentation with new weapons and things like that. And there, in several occasions, I could interview some of the guards there who witnessed what I'm going to tell you now. Huge, big size flying saucer type craft, many lights, okay, coming down from the sky and descending, okay, in the western tip of that area. Whenever they came down there and remained motioned about 3-4 feet from the ground, the people who were, because many times this happened when they were doing military exercises there, okay? And they were bombing practices, U.S. Navy airplanes throwing bombs in certain area, and there was a personnel in an observation post, a building some miles away, who observed all the bombings and saw why some of the bombs went astray and went in other places, They wanted to correct all those type of things, and there was personnel there, high-level personnel from Roosevelt Roads Naval Station that was in the east of Puerto Rico. People from Raytheon Corporation who worked together with the Navy there, okay? And guards who had to work with monitoring the whole thing and communications, things like that. And whenever they saw that happen, these huge crafts coming down from the sky, the strange thing is that the jet fighters that were throwing the bombs were ordered to depart the area at once, to leave the area, okay? And the people from the guards, the Puerto Rican guards and low-level U.S. Navy personnel were ordered at once to leave the area, okay? And not to talk to anyone about what they were seeing there. And some people who were high-level officers from the U.S. Navy remained there. Whatever happened between those officers and those who were in that craft there, they don't know. But that happened in several occasions, okay? And that implies a lot of things. There was some type of contact or something was going on. And if you take in account that many people have seen, including the guards, okay, they have encountered in many occasions small gray type beings there, fleets of craft going into the restricted area of the bombing site. So it's obvious that something was going on there. And it is associated with another area here in Puerto Rico that maybe you know about. I'm sure you know about it, the Yunque rainforest. The Yunque rainforest is a big forest that is located in the east of Puerto Rico. Very close to the Yunque rainforest, in the shoreline, is the Roosevelt Roads naval base, okay, that at this moment is out of commission allegedly, but many people say that underground, the story is very different, okay? But the thing is that the rainforest has been a place where for many, many decades, there have been a lot of heavy alien activity, crafts, okay, including portals that open there. And
this will be my next question. Would Yunque Mountain be an Yunque? Yeah.
It means the amble, you know.
Yeah, will be an extraterrestrial territory in Puerto Rico.
Yes. I don't know if, to me, because of everything I have already gathered, okay, on the whole situation, it seems to be that those beings have been there, several type of beings, for a long time, okay? Maybe even from our extinct Indian times, okay? The Taino Indians. The Tainos had their legends saying that their good gods live there, okay, in that area. And if you take into account the many encounters people have there and the many strange phenomena that happen there and the sighting of this craft all the time, so it's very probable that our Indians already had contact with these beings, whoever they are, wherever they come from. But another thing is that they seem to be there underground for a long time. And in some occasions, Tiago, strange phenomena happen there in which what seemed to be a portal open in the ground, okay? For example, there are 3 places there where this happened. Well, there's the main site. There's this place that is in a very deep valley between some mountains there, El Yunque Mountain, Mount Britain, El Cacique Mountain, and El Toro Mountain, okay? All places of very heavy activity, okay? Witnessed by many people, policemen, forestry service personnel, etc., biologists, etc. The thing is that in some occasions, that area, and this has been witnessed by people from the forestry service, U.S. Forestry Service personnel and policemen, they have witnessed that when this area, including by day, okay, illuminates, an aura of very beautiful reddish pinkish light appear over the whole area down there in that valley, okay? And then next thing you know is that an opening appears in the ground. It is not a porthole or anything like that. It is just that the matter there, you know, the ground, the trees, everything disappears. And what you see down there is a very huge hole. And inside that hole, very deep underground, they have said that they have seen like a city, you know, looked at a very far distance with many structures, light, etc. And this light issues out from that place, okay? And they have seen crafts going down there, flying saucer type craft, or cylindrical type craft, or come out from it. In some occasions, a big, a huge, bright beam of light, like a laser light, shoots out from there to the sky, and people have seen crafts going into that beam of light to that place underground or coming out from it, okay? And then everything, all of a sudden, the light disappears and everything closes, and it's normal again, okay? If that happened only once, you might say, well, maybe he might in this whole thing, etc. But I have many witnesses who have seen this type of things there, okay? So it is not so easy to discard the whole situation as mere fantasy of someone or someone who imagined something like that is happening there, okay?
And what government says about that? Because there's so many witnesses, forest guards and policemen. What the government say about that?
That nothing happens there.
As always.
As always, you know, they have this, the area of the rainforest is under the control of the U.S. Forestry Service of the United States and the Department of the Interior. Some years ago, it was totally federalized, okay? It is no longer under the control of the people of Puerto Rico. It is totally under U.S. control. And it has become more and more obvious that there's a military activity going on there, okay? That either they are participating in the whole situation somehow, or they are dealing with the situation, intervening with the situation. Since the Hurricane Maria that affected Puerto Rico very much, okay? Using the excuse of the alleged damages to the forest and the insecurity in certain areas, most of the areas have been closed to the public, okay, in the rainforest. And now if you want to go up there, you could do it before freely, okay? But now if you want to go up there, you have to make an appointment, pay in order to be authorized to go into the place, okay? And you can only be there from some hour to some hour, and that's it, okay? In a certain area only, okay? You can go to many of the areas that were visited before by the people here in the island. And there's this heavy military presence that shouldn't be there, but it's there. And what people think is that they are either dealing with the situation, they are the island situation, or they are themselves involved somehow with what's going on there with these beings, okay? And there have been many type of events there, encounters. I have hundreds, literally hundreds of encounters of people there in the rainforest, okay? With small gray type creatures of 6 different types. They vary in type because of the type of their eyes or the color of their skin, things like that. And also some human-looking beings, very tall in size, white, pinkish in color, very pale, long, blonde hair to their arms, and dressed in white tunics. But these beings both types have the capability of becoming balls of light. They transform themselves in balls of light and vice versa, okay? Whenever they want to do it. And there's many stories and many accounts of people who have witnessed it there. Even people I have talked with many of the rainforest forestry service personnel and biologists, and they have witnessed all of this. But they are told not to talk about it to anyone, okay? They have to go there at 6 a.m. in the morning to work, and there's a meeting each morning, and they are remembered that they are not to talk to anyone about the things that are going on there in this rainforest. So in the U.S. Navy, the people in the military who are working with the situation in the rainforest are people who were with the U.S. Naval Station, okay? There's some type of joint program going on with this, and they are the ones involved with what's going on in Vieques, okay? And in the southwest of Puerto Rico, that's another story. Everything that has been happening is in the southwest.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I have in my book, Extraterrestrial Topology, I have in my book one of the beings saw in Yuki. There's a black eyes and pointed ears. It's small beings. It's amazing. But another thing
there's a very weird one. Okay, in some sense you can say maybe it looks maybe a little like a gray type creature, but no, it's weird. It's different. The eyes go up like this, dark, elongated eyes. The head is different. It is, I don't know. To me, it looks like a blend between insect and lizard and a gray. It's very weird, very strange. These people have taken a video of it that lasted only some seconds, okay? But I was able to stop the image, took one still with the computer, okay? When it was coming out from the behind a tree, doing like this, and so I cut that off and reproduced it from the other side and completed the face. And what you see there, I send you a copy. It's weird.
Yes, please send me a copy. Another case that amazed me a lot is the Amaury Rivera photo in 1988, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
of a flying disc and an aircraft F-18 or F-14. I don't know. Is it true? That photo is true?
Well, I can tell you this. There has been a lot of discussion about the authenticity of America's pictures, but I can tell you this. So far, no one has been able to say scientifically prove that those are fakes or were made somehow, by those days, as you know, the pictures were taken with an Instamatic 110 camera, okay? Not a digital camera. There were about 12 of those pictures. Only 3 or 4 of them are known widely. The strange thing is that the plane and the object seem to be in the same, more or less in the same exact positions always. But he said that happened. That's what he says. That happened because he had been abducted and later on released, and when he was at this place, that eventually it was known it was the back of his home in the sector of Boquerón. And he said at first that it was in another different place in La Pitaya, in Cabo Rojo, because his uncle, where he lived at his uncle's house, forbid him from making public the place where he took the pictures because they would be harassed all the time, made fun by people. So he had to say that it was in the other place in La Pitaya, and it was behind his house in Boquerón. The thing is that I have other people who live in the same sector who that same morning, very early in the morning, saw a UFO and saw jet fighters flying around. They came out because they heard this flying, this UFO, these F-14 jets flying around. And as they were already in that area, Lajas, Cabo Rojo, where that whenever that happened, something was going on and UFOs were somehow involved, they came out to see and saw the situation. So that tells to me, people I know who are serious people, that apparently something really did happen, according to what he says. Another thing is that none of the analysis made by digital analysis images have shown there being any type of, how do you say, manipulation.
Manipulation or fake.
Fake with the images. I myself made one, I'm not an expert, but I know how to use the digital filters, different programs. And so far, as much as I've tried, I have never found a single line or string from which the airplane or whatever, the UFO could be hanging from, things like that. Nothing at all, No matter what filter you use, you can find anything. So I have to give credence to what Amaury says, I also talked to many of his relatives and neighbors about what happened the day he said that happened. And they all told me that he was very, very affected. He was, how can I say, traumatized. He didn't remember at first what happened to him, but he wouldn't go out from his house. He was very scared. And then when his cousin came with the pictures, because he had taken some pictures for her with the camera of El Gran Combo. It's an orchestra, a salsa orchestra, very famous in Puerto Rico. And he was working in this nightclub. And she asked him to take some pictures, as he was a fan of the orchestra, to have some pictures of them. And he took the pictures and gave the camera to her afterwards, after this had happened. And when she came a couple of days later with the pictures and saw these things there, the flying saucer and the jets flying around, etc., he became frantic, Everything came to him at once. And all his grandmother, his mother, his sisters, cousins, aunts, uncle, everyone told me that he went crazy, He couldn't stand.
The photos unblocked their mind, the members.
Him the remembrance, is this well said, remembrance of what allegedly had happened, and the rest, the story,
It's amazing.
At this moment, he hardly wants to speak about it because he was very harassed, he was persecuted by people, harassed, and the whole situation to him was something very negative, okay? Both because of the experience and the fear it brought to him, he says, and because of all these other situations that happened with some people who were harassing him and threatening him and making fun of him, you know. That's the sort of thing that always happen in these cases. You know?
Yeah.
But there was another. I don't know how much time we still have, but
let's go.
Another incident that happened there in Cabo Rojo and Lajas that is very important. Okay.
Tell us.
Surely you remember the incident in which 2 jet fighters were taken or destroyed by a huge triangle-shaped craft there in Cabo Rojo?
Whoa, I didn't know that.
That was in December 28, 1988. Okay? In December 28, 1988, I received this call at about 8:30 p.m. in the night here in San Juan by some friends down there were calling me that something big had just occurred, and they told me that some U.S. jet fighters apparently were destroyed or disappeared by a huge triangle-shaped craft there. I went there immediately that same night and spoke with many witnesses. There was witnesses, Tiago, by hundreds of people in the whole area, okay? It happened right in the middle between the towns of Cabo Rojo and Lajas, at the southwestern tip of the island, okay? It was about 7:30, something like that, and people heard these jets flying low, okay? They knew they were military jets because they were always flying over the area because they were surveilling the situation that was going on pertaining to the UFO alien situation that happened, began in 1987. A very strong UFO flap after an earthquake that occurred there. The thing is that they see these jet fighters flying around in the sky. It was already almost dark. And then they see the big light coming, okay? A big ball of light coming in the sky. And when it approached, they could see it was something that was like a gigantic triangle-shaped craft, okay? That had a big ball of yellow light underneath in the center and several red and blue lights on the corners, okay? The object came and apparently the jets were trying to how do you say?
Intercept.
Intercept, correct. Intercept the craft, this huge craft. And it kept changing direction, moving to different areas, okay? Then all of a sudden, this huge triangle stopped in the sky next to a radio station antenna. And at that moment, one of the jet fighters that was beside it, behind of it, seemed as if it was going to collide with the huge triangle-shaped craft. But instead of colliding, that everyone began, screaming, "Hey, it's going to collide! It's going to implode! Something's going to happen!" But instead of anything happening, it just, as it approached and was to hit the triangle, it just disappeared. It vanished. They don't know if it was absorbed or captured by this huge craft or was destroyed. The thing is that the jet disappeared. Then that craft veered on itself, made a turn, went back to Laguna Cartagena, another place there of a lot of UFO activity, and remained motionless in the sky, and another jet came, and the same thing happened. It disappeared too. But the thing is that there seemed to be a third jet fighters. Apparently, two of them were trying to intercept the craft and check on it, and there was a third one that surely must have been because it was flying around, some people believe that it was taking, pictures or filming the whole situation. And when that third jet fighter saw what happened to the second one, it flew away to the north. And from the huge triangle UFO, several balls of red light came out and began chasing the third jet fighter that disappeared to the north into the mountains of Monte del Estado, a small region of mountains there going to some clouds and disappear. At that moment, the huge triangle made like a bright explosion with sparks, a noiseless explosion of light with sparks, and divided into two separate triangle sections, triangle craft. One flew to the north, and one flew to the east and disappeared. Okay, that happened that same night. That same night, I began investigating the whole situation. The planes were from the Russell Road Naval Station, okay, in Ceiba. They denied it. I spoke with Officer Bercy from Flight Operation Division, and he denied anything happening that night, and even that they had planes doing air practices in the area. And that was a total lie, because I talked with people in the FAA in San Juan, source I had, and people in the radar stations, and the radar station of the Puerto Rico National Guard, and in Mayagüez, the radar station of the Fast Action Police Corps that have their own air division, and they all told me that Roosevelt Road had jet fighters in that area doing flight practices. Okay, so Roosevelt Road denied and lied about it. Okay,
and a lot of witnesses in the ground saw it.
Yes, in the ground, hundreds of people saw that happen. Okay, so it is not easy to discard this as, the story some people made up, because there were hundreds of witnesses about this situation. Also, we have been trying with several people together in the U.S. to get some type of official verification of this incident. Okay, if some jet disappears, the pilots and things like that night, but nothing comes out. The U.S. Navy keeps denying this ever happened, but there are new details, new things that have come out from people inside the U.S. Navy that have said that in those days they had lost 2 planes, okay, and in Ceiba, in the U.S. Navy base, and they were very sad about the whole situation and worried about what happened with those pilots in those jet fighters. Okay.
Whoa, it's amazing. It's like a mental case and the Felix Moncla case. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing. Well, to finish our interview, I can't let it go without asking you about the chupacabras that hit Puerto Rico in the 90s. And seems that they came back again in the United States. And we had cases in Brazil in the 90s as well. What did you discover about this phenomenon?
Well, in 1994, 95, I began investigating this type of cases, because if you are a serious researcher, you can be prejudiced, in the type of cases you investigate. So I had to check what was going on with this, because it had to do with cattle mutilations, animal mutilations, livestock, all type of animals, And as you know, many cattle mutilation and animal mutilation cases have been related somehow with UFO activity in many places, okay? But in Brazil, here, in the United States, in many places. So I wanted to check it out. And I was surprised to see that it was really going on. And there was a strange type of creature that seemed to be doing this. Eventually, I came to the knowledge of what these creatures really looked like, okay? After investigating and interviewing hundreds of witnesses all over the island, they gave me pieces of the description of this creature, okay? And I began doing like an identikit of whatever this was. But the ones who really gave me the description of this type of creature were children, okay? Small children. And they told me it was like this. It has very strong thighs, legs. It had nails or claws in their feet, in their hand. Their hands are small, but they have these claws in their hands. They told me the body is like that of a small dinosaur, okay? But with a little fur on its body. The head is oval shaped with red eyes that seem to be hypnotic in nature. And they have these fangs, but also something very weird that comes out from their mouth. They are like an appendage, a pointy appendage, reddish in color, that comes out from the mouth of these creatures, and that's what goes into the animals, make these strange holes in them, and extract liquids and blood from them, etc. Another thing that was found was that this creature emit, apparently through that appendage, emit some type of liquid that seems to be like an enzyme, like the enzymes that flies you to melt the elements, the food, to dissolve the foods. Okay? And that explains something that was very weird in this type of cases, because in many cases, Thiago, even though there were no big holes or holes in the victims, the animals, I'm talking about rabbit, cats, dogs, etc. Entire organs from inside these animals had disappeared. When they were necropsied, they were opened and examined. The veterinarians we were using became surprised because complete organs had disappeared from inside the animals, and there was no explanation to that. And it seemed to be the case that these things that came out from their mouth and were inserted into the animals issued out some type of liquid that worked like an enzyme that dissolved this, and then they could suck the whole...
Like an acid, acid, and melted the organs, internal organs, and suck it.
Absorb these organs and parts of the animal from the inside of it. Only thing was that, for example, some of the animals, you could see a small hole here in this area, okay, in the ribs, let's say, and whatever this was that seemed to be this long pointy thing, moved inside the animal in a straight fashion and went to the heart and cut out a little piece of the heart, okay? Then, but the thing is that they found out also that it went from there, it changed its course in a linear fashion to the liver and took another piece, okay? And from there went to another organ, okay? And took another piece, and then to the sexual organs. And they said it was like taking biopsies of these tissues, of these organs. But the thing is, how could this do this with whatever was going on inside and changing directions, in linear fashion, and going to other organs and extracting pieces, this was verified later on when the Puerto Rico Agriculture Department sent some samples of this liquid to be examined in the Ames laboratory in the United States in Iowa, that has to do with, genetic research for agriculture department and things like that. And they found out that there was a type of a very strange type of enzyme that did this, that melted the tissue. And so it proved what we were finding with the veterinarians here. And then also, I could finally do the sketch of what these creatures look like. That was the first one that was published worldwide about these creatures, with the spines in their back and everything. But now, Thiago, there's a new development. By 1996-97, there began to be encounters with creatures that looked very weird, were tall in size, humanoid in shape, but had what seemed to be like bat-like wings, okay? Bat-like wings, dark in color, very strong, and they had an almost gargoyle-like appearance. And it's happening right now, okay? That sort of thing is happening very frequently here in Puerto Rico at this moment. And also, as you said, the chupacabra type creatures are being observed again in different places of Puerto Rico. Yes, but it is smaller, showier, more showy, more stocky. That's the movement. That's the movement. But these creatures that are being observed here in Puerto Rico and had to do with the animal killings and mutilations are humanoid in shape with bat-like wings. So people call them the gargoyles, okay? Because there's no other way to know them, to name them. So what's going on, we don't know. At this moment, we really don't know what's going on with all of this.
It's a mystery here in Brazil as well. We had some cases in the 90s, and we had some cases in 2019, 20, but we couldn't find an explanation for that, because, as I said, okay, some cases we can explain, like a jaguar or a wild cat that we have here in Brazil. They do that, but when you open the chest of the animal, there's nothing inside, and there's no blood, and you can see that in some places the animals are dead, and the right side of the animal, there's nothing happened to other animals, and they never try to escape. It's like an ambush. It's like an ambush, a perfect ambush, because they never. And 10 chickens and 5 goats, one of them should be try to escape. None of them tried it. There's no,
Apparently, that has to do with the ability those creatures have to hypnotize with these reddish eyes they have, luminous eyes. It is happening again here in Puerto Rico, okay? We don't know what this means pertaining to the whole situation with the UFOs, etc. But there seems some type of relationship between both things. In the 90s, I had a couple of cases in which UFO, flying saucer type craft, or pyramid-shaped craft, were seen in close proximity with some of these creatures. Okay.
So you think that the chupacabras should be extraterrestrial?
We don't know. We really don't know. Okay. But the thing is, for example, to us it became known that the U.S. government knew about this a long time ago. Okay. When I made a program with the Unsolved Mysteries show pertaining to the chupacabra situation here in Puerto Rico, you know that they, at the end of each program, they ask people to call them or write to them or send emails saying if they have known something about the situation or have witnessed something similar. And they contacted me afterwards and put me in contact with a lot of people from all over the United States, Brazil, Mexico, etc., who had gotten in contact with them and who had seen this creature, experienced this a long time ago. So the government knows that it was going on. Okay, it didn't happen here in Puerto Rico only. At first, it seemed to be that it originated here in the island of Puerto Rico, but this was happening for a long time everywhere.
Well, my friend, I would like to thank you very much for your time. I am sure that Brazilian audience will love it, because we don't know a lot about the Puerto Rico sightings and ufology as general. And I will leave in the description of this video, I will leave the links that you have and to sell your books or to make a signature of your magazine. And I would like to thank you very much, George. Thank you very much.
Al contrario, muito obrigado for inviting me to your program. And let me tell you this final thing, okay? Since January 7, 2020, there have been a lot of UFO and alien encounters in Puerto Rico after a very strong earthquake that happened here, a 6.4 earthquake. And right at that moment, there was a huge UFO flap, giant cylinder-shaped craft flying in different parts of the island, small cylinder craft flying in different, coming out from the sea, going into the sea, flying saucers, triangle-shaped craft, either military or alien, we don't know. But it continues to happen every day at this moment in Puerto Rico. And it all began with the earthquake in January last year.
Well, send us pictures and photos and films. We would like to watch it.
Some reports on that and some images too, okay?
Ok, thank you. Pessoal, muito obrigado pela presença de vocês. Esse foi Jorge Martín, mostrando como é grande a casuística ufológica em Porto Rico. Eu tenho certeza que tem muito mais casos. Fiquem ligados com informações que o Jorge traz pra gente. São fantásticas. E mais uma vez, eu agradeço a presença de todos. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Se você gostou aí, deixe seu like, comente, passe para os seus amigos, que essa entrevista ficou muito boa, realmente. Obrigado para todos. Tenham um bom dia, boa tarde ou boa noite.